Hi folks, Elkrix here. What we're going to do now is I'm going to flock some stuff. Probably noticed a few different things since the last. I've did the XV88 from Citadel GW paints around the bases to give them a nice edge to them. And these galleons, I decided not to camouflage them, but I just went with a different color and a little bit of wash and a little bit of dry brush on them to highlight some of the areas on them. So you can see what they look like. But we're going to do a little bit of flocking on some of these guys. So we got these mechs, and there's all kinds of stuff, you know, you can use. Where's it at? Over here. There we go. You got the Citadel texture paints, you know, like this one right here. I used it on my Mechanicus army, and I wasn't too happy with it, being that it started flaking off. Even after I sealed it, I put some a watered down solution of just plain Elmer's glue and water that was, and painted it on there so it would try to seal it up, and it still would flake off because there's just not enough bond in some of those places. So I wasn't too happy with that. But here's my tried and true, which I've been using for 25 years. It's your basic static flock, grass flock, and you can see the price there. You can get this big giant container for, this has cost me $11. It's gone up in price a little bit since the last time I bought that one. I got another one. It's Woodland Scenics blended turf. It's more of a green, gives you more. That was probably the first one I bought. That was it's getting low, but I've had this thing for 10 years now, maybe. And you can see it's a big container and it lasts for a long time. And then we got, I have a different color. I got static flock grass. This is Harvest Gold. It's kind of, if you got dry grass, you know, prairie, savanna type look. And if you want something that's like after a drought, you got that. If you want some light ballast, this has lasted me a long time. So if you want something that has a little bit of rock in it, texture, like rocks showing up through the grass, through like a mountainous area, you can throw this on, or you can just glue it onto the base, and then instead of using sand for that matter, and it's already colored. So there you go. And then we got even coarser. We got coarse ballast. This is all from the Train Hobby Shop. And this stuff works really good. I've been using it for years, and it's so cheap. And here we got a drawer here. My brother, he got into 40K, and he's like, I'm playing this great game. It's called 40K. You ever tried it? I was like, yeah, I've been playing it for 20 years. And he had bought this, and it was like $8, and this was like 8 years ago. I just use the container now for a sand, kind of a beach look. So if I want kind of a coarse gravel sand like you'd find on a riverbed or something, I made a mixture of that. So many different ways. So I got this container, and for the price, I can get these big giant things and mix them together, and just over the years, I'm still using it all up. So there's many different ways. So I use your basic Elmer's glue. I don't know what is it. What do they call it overseas? You know, white glue. So you put white glue, and I mix it with, since most of the stuff I do is flocking, I just take a basic, real cheap $2 container of glue, or not glue, but paint. It's an acrylic paint that I pick up at the local shop, you know, where they do craft shop. It was Michael's here is the one I get these from. And I mix it in. So I just take a container of it, and let's just show you here. I got a big giant container of it. Every once in a while I have to buy a big one, and I just pour some into this one. And then I pour some of the green paint in it, and it becomes green. So it gets a green. So when it dries, you're going to have some a little bit of green with it. So tools I use to apply it in, I had this old paintbrush that was going kind of bad at one time, and I just applied some glue to it, and it has a nice little tip. So if I'm doing a large base, I can just go in and spread it around with the large tool like this, and it can get in, you know, this will work too for using it on this base. But typically the tool I use the most on small bases is just a wire, just a plain metal wire that is very narrow. Let's say when I'm going to flock these galleons, there's areas in here where my big tool can't get in, or brush, and I just use this, and I can get it in there and just work it into the small areas, get it into the cracks, crevices, you name it. Very handy. Alright, so I'm just going to flock this one base, and I'll just pour it on there. I need to refill this thing. There we go. And what I do is I take the standard glue, put a little bit of paint in it, and then I'll put some water in it to kind of get it a liquidy form with it. And I'll just spread it around the base. It's not really rocket science per se. I figured this out years ago when I was making terrain. I used to make large things of terrain. We used to have, you know, when we played all different kind of game systems, and we needed stuff to apply to the games what we had, so we'd just, instead of spending a weekend playing, we'd spend a weekend making terrain. And you've probably seen, if you watch any of my videos from the beginning, you've noticed we have a large collection of terrain. Now what I have is a container. It's just an old yogurt cup. I imagine this thing is probably 20 years old. Anderson Erickson yogurt. I don't eat yogurt hardly anymore. It's too much sugar in it. And I'll just take this, put it in there, put it in, give it a shake, a little press down to get it in there into where the end of the glue, and then just shake it off. And give it a little blow to knock off the excess that's hanging on there. And there you go. One base done. And then if you really want to, if you got a little bit extra that's hanging off where you don't want it, you can either just wipe it off or use a old paintbrush and brush it out of the area. So if you want to do a second one, let's do this galleon here. I'm going to try not to get any on the, you got to be very careful because your areas that you can use the glue on is limited. And what you can do is, if you want to do that, you could always put it on, let's see, a little bit of glue on your, like I always have a piece of paper laying down, and you can pick it up off that paper instead of getting it near your miniature without making too much of a mess, because there's been times I screwed the pooch. Get a big old blob of glue on your miniature and you're like, oh my god, this sucks. And then you just wipe off any screw-ups you got there on the base. And we can get up and underneath there. Just work it in to those areas. Get it in there, and just a little bit too much on the edge. Take our little container. I always like having it so our little I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little divot in there, and then I'll just stick it in there and then wrap the stuff over it. Press it down, another shake, because you got those areas that you can't really get it in there unless you shake it in. Turn it over, get a quick couple, knock it off, and voila, you have a flat vehicle. And it gives it a nice little look. And we have all these vehicles are going to all look the same. And later on, before I seal everything, I'm going to go through with some white with a small, like a 10 brush, and I'll make one tick mark, then 2 tick marks for 1, then 2. And since I have 4 of these, there's going to be a Mark 4 symbol on it. This represents, there's vehicle 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we have these hunters, so vehicles 1, 2, 3, 4. And on these vehicles, you don't have a base on them. I'll just usually, someplace on here. If you have access to, let's see, here we got some decals handy. These are Adeptus Mechanicus transfers. I got 1 through 9 and a 0, so they're in white and black. And I'll do is I can just cut those out, and then I'll just put it someplace on one of the vehicles to just represent the numbers for them. And so you can identify them really quick. So if you don't have a base, if you have transfers, you do that. If you don't have transfers, take that same fine brush, and someplace like on the back of the turret, you just put like a 1 on both sides, as neat as possible that you can. All right, that pretty much is what I go through when I'm doing a large block of miniatures. It goes pretty quick. I just use the assembly line. You start with doing one color, then you do the next color, and you just work your way through it, and pretty soon you have everything done. And what you've seen on all these videos, it's taking me a little bit longer because I'll do a video and download it and stuff, but typically you're looking at about 4 hours worth of work total here. And the longest time of that 4 hours is like when I put a wash on something and it has to dry. So from start to finish, about 4 hours for this whole group of miniatures. And these are not what you call Golden Demon painting. This is just your quick and ready, rough and ready. Get them painted, get them on the table with some color on them instead of bare metal. And if you looked at any of my other videos, you'll see that, you know, I have some stuff that I put a lot of time in. It's like some of my, I got some miniatures I put probably 25, 30 hours of work into just to bring out all the highlights and just the way I want it. But that's a labor of love. That's something that's a showpiece, you know, miniature. These are not showpiece miniatures. These are just your basic run-of-the-mill miniatures that you want to get on the table with some color on them. And they're very basic. So, all right, folks. Hope you enjoy these things. Be kind to me because of how the video looks. I don't have the equipment per se to do a great video. It's just something I wanted to put out there. It's more informational than anything. All right. Have a good one. Elk Rex out.